No one's turning that kind of money down. It's life-changing, earth-shattering, gravity-defying. They've secured their family's financial future for the next 58 generations. We've all heard it. It is the most common justification of players like Cristiano Ronaldo, Jordan Henderson and Ruben Neves joining Saudi Arabian football clubs owned and operated by the Saudi state. Some massive number gets quoted, let's just say £300 million a second for the sake of argument, and a load of people respond, "Wow, that's a lot of money, no one could say no to that." It overlooks the fact that, firstly, most high-profile footballers signed by Saudi Arabia are already unimaginably wealthy and earn millions of pounds at their current clubs, so the calculations involved and the difference that it actually makes to their lives is a little bit different to if Bob down the pub, supporting a family on £12 an hour, was suddenly offered 50 million quid to spend 2 years living in Riyadh. But more importantly, it overlooks the fact that several high-profile players have already rejected extremely lucrative contract offers from Saudi Arabia. Lionel Messi is arguably the greatest footballer of all time and received the most lucrative contract offer of them all, worth a reported €500 million a season, to play for Al Hilal. But he turned it down in favour of a move to Inter Miami, where he will earn a frankly pathetic $54 million a season. Such rank disregard for maximising his earnings is likely to mean that Messi can only afford 2 mega yachts and just 6 private jets in retirement, rather than funding his own private militia and becoming a bona fide Bond villain, a luxury that he would have been afforded had he just accepted the offer from Saudi Arabia. Messi's Saudi rejection is pretty well known, but I thought that it might be interesting to take a look at a handful of other players who, for a variety of reasons, and I have picked some of the more interesting ones, have said no to earning 2, 3, or sometimes even 20 times as much as they currently earn to play in a tyrannical dictatorship in West Asia. There will be some honourable mentions later on because there are a lot of them. Here are 7 footballers who have rejected enormous contract offers from Saudi Arabia. 7th, Jamie Vardy. At 36 years of age, as a Premier League and FA Cup winner, whose club had just been relegated from the Premier League, you'd have thought that Jamie Vardy would have been easy pickings for a Saudi club and a prime candidate to make the move. Al Khalij FC, based in the small city of Saihat on Saudi Arabia's east coast, seemingly thought so as well. They were one of a handful of Saudi clubs to approach Leicester about Vardy's availability after the Foxes were relegated from the Premier League, but Vardy wasn't interested. In a statement posted to his social media accounts, the former England international stated, quote, "Whilst I am flattered to have received interest from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, albeit from a club that I'd never heard of until Tuesday, I feel that my lifestyle and that which is permitted in the kingdom are simply not compatible." End quote. According to Vardy's agent, his client's love of WKDs and Jaeger bombs, contrasted with Saudi Arabia's status officially as a dry country where alcohol is prohibited, was a key factor in his decision. No, not really. I just made all of that up, obviously, including the quote. All Vardy actually said is that he didn't feel moving to the Middle East would be good for his family. I will try not to make anything up from this point on. Vardy, meanwhile, is now into his 12th season at Leicester City and still has 1 year remaining on his deal as the Foxes seek an immediate return to the Premier League. 6th, Sergio Ramos. One of the most decorated footballers of all time, Sergio Ramos has racked up over 800 club appearances, 180 international caps for Spain, and has won 28 trophies, including the Champions League, European Championships, and the World Cup over the past 2 decades. Now aged 37, and off the back of 2 seasons playing for Qatari-owned PSG, one might have imagined that Ramos wouldn't have had too many qualms about relocating to Jeddah and reuniting with Karim Benzema at Al Ittihad, especially after he was offered €20 million a season. That's more than Ramos ever earned at either Real Madrid or PSG in his prime, even before one accounts for the absence of any income tax in Saudi Arabia. Nonetheless, Ramos turned down the state-owned franchise, who are coached by Nuno Espirito Santo, along with a fairly lucrative offer, reportedly worth €11 million a season, from Galatasaray, in order to rejoin his boyhood club Sevilla. Ramos was born in Seville, came through the Sevilla Academy, and made his name in the club's first team before becoming the most expensive Spanish defender and teenager of all time in a move to Real Madrid in 2005. He even went back and got married in Seville in 2019. Ramos returns 18 years on, reportedly on a deal worth €2 million a season, so just 10% of what he could have earned with Al Ittihad. Still, I am reliably informed that €2 million is an above-average salary in Spain and that he shouldn't have any problem supporting his family, for the time being at least. I know that some of you were concerned. Fifth, Musa Diabe. From a purely selfish point of view, Musa Diabe is probably the player who I am most pleased about rejecting a move to Saudi Arabia. That's simply because I find his speed, invention, and, increasingly, his end product a joy to watch, and also perhaps just slightly because it probably played a role in facilitating Jadon Philogene move to Hull City, who is the next JJ Okocha. For the last couple of years, Diabe has been one of the standout players in the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen, during which time he has been linked with some of the biggest clubs in the world. Manchester United and Arsenal were both heavily linked back in May, but during the off-season, Aston Villa and Saudi state-owned Al Nassr emerged as the strong favourites. Unsurprisingly, Al Nassr reportedly offered Diabe a lot more money than Villa, though no official contract details were ever reported, but Diabe had his heart set on the cold and rain of the West Midlands, rather than playing alongside Cristiano Ronaldo in the hot, dry Saudi desert. Either that, or he just figured that at 24, he should probably test himself in a half-decent league, while still earning a fortune, and he can always go chasing the bag in 10 years' time if he has to. Diabe has made an impressive start to life at Villa, with 2 goals in 3 Premier League games, and I suspect that the best is still to come. Fourth, Angel Di Maria. Chronically underrated here in England, thanks largely to a somewhat underwhelming season, which still wasn't actually that bad at Manchester United, and chronically overrated by whoever made this dreadful viral list of the 100 greatest footballers of all time, and somehow put him 17th, Angel Di Maria is one of the most decorated and accomplished wide players of the past 2 decades. Now aged 35, Di Maria still started and scored for Argentina in the World Cup final last season, and made 40 appearances at Juventus. Unsurprisingly then, he wasn't short of offers this summer as a free agent, one of which was from Saudi Arabia. Di Maria described the offer that he received from an unnamed Saudi club, owned by the Saudi state, as crazy, but that he had his heart set on Benfica. Di Maria has always emphasised his gratitude to Benfica, who brought him to Europe from Rosario Central as a 19-year-old, and the law of one last dance, so to speak, in the Portuguese capital, proved to be too great. Di Maria has already made a blistering start to life back at Benfica, rolling back the years with 3 goals and 2 assists in his first 4 appearances, including the opening goal in the final of the Portuguese Super Cup against Porto, which Benfica went on to win 3-2. Third, HeungMin Son. Having lost their all-time record goalscorer Harry Kane this summer, it would have been a bitter pill to swallow for Spurs fans had they also lost HeungMin Son, their second most important player of the last decade, and their 6th highest scorer of all time. Thankfully then, when Saudi Arabia came calling, Son said thanks but no thanks. An unnamed Saudi club was prepared to make an opening bid of €60 million for Son and quadruple his after-tax income, but Son wanted at least 1 more season in the Premier League. Son stated in a press conference, and I'm not lying this time, quote, "Probably if I wanted to go there, I would be out there, not here. I love playing football. Obviously money is also important, but I dream of playing in the Premier League and still have a lot of things to do. Especially last season, I suffered physically. This is not the Sonny that I know. So I want to prove this season that I'm the Sonny that we all know. I want to prove that to myself, and I want to give back to the club where I belong. Saudi, obviously, most people are going at the moment, which is really, really interesting. But the Premier League is still a dream for me to play in, and I'm looking forward to this season. End quote. Son certainly seemed to be the Sonny that we all know in Tottenham's recent 5-2 win away at Burnley, in which he scored his 4th Premier League hat-trick. Richarlison's woes in front of goal have seen Son shifted centrally, where he has previously flourished, putting FPL managers worldwide on high alert. Second, Luca Modric. There is barely a member of Real Madrid's 2018 Champions League winning team which the Saudi state hasn't tried to sign in 2023. They have managed to win over Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema with gargantuan contract offers, but midfield duo Luca Modric and Toni Kroos, plus Sergio Ramos, have all held firm. Not only did Kroos swiftly reject Saudi interest in him before a firm offer had even been tabled, he also described it as embarrassing that 21-year-old Spanish youth team international and Celta Vigo star Gabri Veiga joined Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia, and he recently stated, quote, "It is said that the football there is ambitious, but it all revolves around money. In the end, it is a decision for money and against football. It's starting to be difficult for the football we all know and love. Everyone has to make this decision for himself, as Cristiano Ronaldo decided, for example." End quote. Don't sit on the fence there, Tony. Tell us what you really think. His old comrade Luca Modric, meanwhile, who is about to turn 38 and just entered his 12th season playing for Real Madrid, was offered an eye-watering €100 million 2-year deal in Saudi Arabia, plus a €20 million signing-on bonus. That is 3 times as much as Modric earns, €20 million a season, at Real Madrid, or close to 6 times as much once you take taxes into account. It is one of the largest offers made to a player by the Saudi state. Modric has won it all in European football and no longer has anything to prove, but still he turned it down, signing a 1-year extension with Madrid instead. Al Hilal, the club who Modric would have joined, have since signed Alexander Mitrovic and Neymar. 0. Honourable mentions. There are likely several players who have turned down moves to Saudi Arabia that just haven't been reported on or made public, so we don't know about them. But of those that have, aside from Lionel Messi and the 7 players featured in this video, they include the likes of Toni Kroos, Thomas Partey, Robert Lewandowski, Ousmane Dembele, Sergio Busquets, Olivier Giroud, Pedro, Alvaro Morata, and managers like Jose Mourinho and Marco Silva, so in short, it turns out that, yes, in fact, you can turn down that kind of money, contrary to popular opinion, as lots of people have done just that. But now for top spot, though it should be noted that this 7 is in no particular order. First, Romelu Lukaku. Romelu Lukaku is a world-class centre-forward, except for when he is at Chelsea. Away from Stamford Bridge, Lukaku has scored 265 goals in 531 games at club level, so a goal every other game, and 75 goals from 108 caps on the international stage, so even better than a goal every other game. At Chelsea, however, Lukaku has only managed to score 15 goals in 59 games across 2 separate stints, the second of which was preceded by an almost £100 million move. That left both Chelsea and Lukaku with a bit of a dilemma this summer. Last season, Lukaku reached a Champions League final on loan with his former club Inter Milan, who he was desperate to rejoin. So much so that he basically wouldn't even entertain the idea of going anywhere else. Unfortunately, Inter couldn't stump up the funds to pay Lukaku's wages, nor the fee that Chelsea were demanding. One team where funds aren't a problem, given that they are owned by Saudi Arabia's state-owned sovereign wealth fund, is our old friends Al Hilal, who seem to have been rejected more times than a ginger kid before prom. I do apologise to any gingers watching. That was entirely uncalled for and not even reflective of my own personal views. Al Hilal didn't just offer to cover Lukaku's reported £320,000 a week wages at Chelsea, but to almost treble them to £45 million a season, or close to £1 million a week. Lukaku still said no because, however much money they were offering, Al Hilal still aren't Inter Milan, but a day before the transfer window slammed shut, Lukaku finally had to give up on his dream of returning to the San Siro. He has, at least, returned to Serie A, reportedly taking a significant pay cut to join AS Roma on loan, where he will be reunited with Jose Mourinho. Roma paid Chelsea an £8 million loan fee, are covering Lukaku's entire reduced salary demands, and have the option to sign the Belgian on a permanent basis at the end of the season for £37 million. That is it for today's video, a shorter one than usual, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. A bit more like an old school HITC Sevens vibe. Hit the like button if that was the case, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and of course, make sure that you're subscribed and have notifications turned on for both this channel, HITC Sevens, and my second channel, Alfie Potshammer, both of which should be on your screens now, along with a couple of videos that you might fancy watching after this one. You can also find me on Twitter or on Instagram via the username @HITC Sevens, and all of those links, plus a whole lot more, should be down in the video description below. Cheers.